What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer. I am joined by absolutely nobody. It is a one-person show. For that reason, as you probably saw in the title, we're not going to be giving you guys the running back review that we were talking about doing as of Friday's show. I want to make sure I have as many of the guys here as possible because, as we say, these are the shows you really want to save and keep track of, and I want as many people here to talk about what happened last season so we can get as much information as possible for those shows. I can go into it, but it's always good to get people's perspectives. So because of that, the guys should be back for Friday's show. Jason and CJ both had things to take care of, so we're gonna do a little experiment. This could be a little fun. Anybody who's been with the show for any period of time knows that I am an advocate of late-round quarterback, late-round tight end. I load up on running backs and wide receivers in the first, really, 10 rounds. Like, it's rare that I get a quarterback before double digits. It's even rarer I get a tight end before then, unless somebody really falls. So this is going to be a little bit of an experiment for me as well, because we're going to do what some would consider kind of a novice mock draft. Or maybe even the masses. It's really hard to say because a lot of these guys we're going to pick around their average draft value. I'm going to go ADP value for quarterback and tight end. So I'm going to be looking to take a Patrick Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers in the second, third round. I'm going to be looking to take a name brand tight end in the third, fourth round. Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, George Kittle rather, Gronk maybe. One of these guys as they're going based on their current ADP. So this is also the philosophy where people try to get a stud at each position. If I was going to do that, I would go running back, probably wide receiver, then quarterback, tight end. But Patrick Mahomes is going in the second round right now. So we might pass on him. We're going to see how it goes. I'm going to try and load up on stud guys. I'm going to try and do basically that early round quarterback, tight end, get a stud at running back, depending on my average draft position, or my actual draft position in the mock draft, a wide receiver to complement it, and we're going to see how the team looks when the chips have all fallen, the draft is over, and we'll review the show, or the draft rather, on Friday's show. So with that all being said, make sure you guys subscribe wherever you're listening. We're a year-round show, giving you everything you need to bring home your fantasy titles. We are on Patreon at patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. It allows us to keep bringing you guys this free content every single week, so if you can support the show over there, we greatly appreciate that. Best way to help the show besides that, go rate, review the show anywhere you can. If you give us a rating, you give us a review, helps the show grow. It helps us get in front of more people, and it's always good for us to see what you guys like and what we can then therefore expand on. So hopefully you guys can get to that. We do have some top headlines. Really, the only thing that's fantasy relevant that we really need to get to today: the Cleveland Browns have signed unrestricted free agent running back Kareem Hunt. Now, this is something we're going to talk about in depth on Friday's show when the guys are here, because right now, it just happened, and there's a lot of ways this could go. This could be a guy that they've signed, and we could see he might not be with the team come training camp. They could be simply giving him a shot. The only thing we know for sure is that this deflates the value of Nick Chubb, so we're going to definitely be letting him slide in the draft today. If he falls to me in the early second round, probably going to look away. Because if Kareem Hunt is still in Cleveland come the beginning of the season, that's going to be probably a timeshare. Most likely, we'll see Hunt take the lead back work. We all like Nick Chubb. We think he's very talented, has a bright future. But Kareem Hunt is also one of those game-breaking running backs. It's going to be hard to say. Obviously, we'll know more by the time we get to our actual drafts. But as of right now, February 12th, it's really hard to project it going any other way than best-case scenario timeshare if you're a Nick Chubb fan. So we'll see how that shakes down. Of course, everybody's going to have a very strong stance on Kareem Hunt being back in the league. But we told you guys, look, he's an incredibly young, talented guy. And no matter how you feel about what happened with him, odds were somebody was going to give him another chance because he was such an up-and-coming star in this league, young guy, a guy that they think that they can excuse off to, oh, he was young, he was under the influence, he wasn't in his right mind, whatever they're going to spin it or say. No matter where you fall in the argument, we figured he was probably going to get a chance, and it looks like he has in Cleveland, so we will go more into depth with that as we know more. With that being said, though, let's get to the draft. So, again, the idea here is that we're going to be doing a 12-team standard mock draft. I'm going to randomly generate, let's see, randomize. Randomize gave me the number 5 spot. So that should be interesting. So we're going standard draft, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flexed running back wide receiver, 1 kicker, 1 defense, 6 bench players. 5 spot, actually that's pretty good because that leans us towards the front. All the elite running backs should be gone, so that's going to make this a little bit interesting. We'll see how this all shakes out. So let's load up the draft. I'm going to be the only one in here, so it's going to be a little interesting, and the draft is already interesting. And the draft is off to a strong start. Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley somehow falling to 4. But a lot of people are going to buy into Christian McCaffrey after last season, and I can't blame them. That leaves us on the board at the 5 spot. The obvious pick for me, I'm looking running back. It's between Alvin Kamara, Melvin Gordon. They have Nick Chubb up there, but obviously we know more than what the current ADP is, so we're not going to look that way. I'm going to go ahead and lock into a guy who can't really stay healthy. We've seen that, but is unbelievably productive when he is there. Alvin Kamara, he just kind of scares me, and we know that the situation is going to change year to year. He's elite. You could easily argue taking him in the top 3 again, but I'm going to look at Melvin Gordon here. I just like having a back that I know can really consistently run north-south for me. So Melvin Gordon is going to be on my team. And then we've got a little bit of a long run. So after me, we have Alvin Kamara, who did go next, Nick Chubb, so we'll let Team 7 have that grenade. DeAndre Hopkins, first wide receiver. James Conner, nice sneaky pick. Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, and David Johnson still making it in the first round. Top of the second round, we have Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. Been nice to see either one of those make it back, but based on our draft style we're doing, wouldn't have the opportunity to draft either one because that's what we're doing. We have Julio Jones, Juju Smith-Schuster in the second round, Le'Veon Bell, somebody jumped on that. If I was drafting, I would probably look to grab him around then in the second round. He's going to land somewhere, as of this recording, we believe he's going to be not with the Steelers, and therefore he will probably be a great fantasy option for you. And then Travis Kelce, first tight end, going in the second round. That is kind of crazy. I don't think that's going to start a run at tight ends. I'm going to try and grab my wide receiver, and then I'm going to look at quarterback, tight end. I'm not going to let that sway me. Wide receiver, and then Antonio Brown. So Juju Smith-Schuster went before Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown going in the 7th pick in the second round, middle of the second. That's crazy. Even on this website, he's ranked as the number 5, which is kind of crazy. So that leaves me with a couple options. I can look at Odell Beckham Jr., I can look at Tyreek Hill, I can look at Mike Evans, and I can look at A.J. Green. Oh, and T.Y. Hilton's there. The obvious pick for me, it's between Odell Beckham Jr. and Tyreek Hill. I'm going to go ahead and think that the offense is going to change a little bit for Kansas City. Tyreek Hill is an unbelievable talent, but I'm going to buy into, and this could be an old school style of thinking, and this might really quickly change once we get into our wide receiver breakdown. We've been preparing for the running back breakdown. I'm going to really look at all the hard numbers for the wide receivers, and by our next mock draft, I'll know for sure where I stand on this, but Odell Beckham Jr., he's going to come back healthy. Hopefully they have a lot more answers in New York. They will upgrade that offensive line. If it's Eli Manning there with time, we know Eli can still be effective. Odell Beckham Jr. I like a lot. Tyreek Hill, you could really go either way. I really expect both these guys to be in the conversation for the top 5 of the position. It really comes down to preference, and I'm going to go Odell Beckham Jr. I'm going to think that he's got something to prove, and he wants to come back, and you could go either way. I'm going to go Odell, though. Odell Beckham's on my team. Leonard Fournette went with the next pick. Then it was Aaron Jones. Then it was Tyreek Hill. And then Zach Ertz. So we saw 2 tight ends go. And there it is. First pick in the third round, Patrick Mahomes. So we missed out on the number one tight end and the number one quarterback, even though we're being aggressive at both positions in this draft philosophy. So it appears if we want these guys, you gotta go even earlier than I did. Looks like you probably won't be able to get both unless, really, even if you are the first pick overall, because we saw 2 tight ends go. So we'll see. But that leaves us on the board. Patrick Mahomes did go, Marlon Mack, AJ Green, and Amari Cooper. So we have on our team Melvin Gordon, Odell Beckham Jr. Sounds really good on paper. And now we're going to do something that makes me kind of cringe to my core. We're going to look at quarterback and tight end. Now, I think the tight end talent's going to dry up much quicker, but if we're going to do this strategy, we want to get one of those elite guys that we can get at the value they're actually going for. So you could make an argument because we saw George Kittle. They've got O.J. Howard up here really high, which is kind of weird. Rob Gronkowski, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, maybe Eric Ebron. They've got these guys who are all ranked in the 4th, 5th, 6th round based on ADP on various websites. We're in the 3rd. The only one that makes sense in the 3rd is George Kittle, but I could also get myself what possibly could return to be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football. Patrick Mahomes is gone, so that leaves me only one other guy that I put in that same tier. Maybe Andrew Luck, honestly, if he can get some weapons and a better offensive line. Deshaun Watson's there, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, Cam Newton. There's lots of guys we love the upside, but I think Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are that 1A. They are the top tier elite guys going to next season based on what we know now. I love the new offensive philosophy in Green Bay that will be implemented. Aaron Rodgers is on my team. So, after that, we had Damian Williams. So, Team 6 has faith that Damian Williams will retain the starting job in Kansas City as their running back. Mike Evans went, then George Kittle did go. So, we missed out on the top 3 at tight end. That makes it really kind of dangerous for us, but we're going to press on. We're going to hope for big things. Sony Michel, Kerryon Johnson, T.Y. Hilton, and Kenyon Drake, not Kenyon Drake, what am I saying? Keenan Allen. I was looking at the wrong thing. Keenan Allen round out the 3rd. Top of the 4th, Chris Carson, Phillip Lindsay. Dang, he's rising. Devonta Freeman, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Cooks, and Robert Woods. A lot of talent that I'm hating that we didn't get any of them, and that's why I don't do this draft philosophy. But it got back to us, and only 1 tight end did go. So we have Zach Ertz, we have Travis Kelce, we have George Kittle all off the board. That leaves us in a position to draft who we want at the position. This is our short turnaround, so we could theoretically look elsewhere. There's still really nice talent out there at running back and wide receiver. I think we could get any one of a number of tight ends I have in the same tier with our next pick. But unfortunately, that's not the draft philosophy. This is why we do mock drafts. It's to experiment. It's to learn. It's to try new things. So we're looking at tight end. I hate it so much. But we've got O.J. Howard. This website that we're on has him ranked as the number 4 tight end, which I think is ludicrous. I love O.J. Howard. I think he is a phenomenal talent, and I think that he has shown time and time again to have a very good connection with Jameis Winston. There's a couple problems here. Obviously, he's not the only tight end in Tampa Bay. That by itself is a big problem. The other big problem is that there's a new head coach who doesn't like to use tight ends in Tampa. So, I mean, we saw year and year and year of this with his time in Arizona, that even though he had guys, Bruce Arians, their new head coach, did not like to feature his tight ends. So we've got a problem there. We know he likes to really feature his wide receivers. He likes to pass the ball to his running backs. But tight ends, that's O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, both of those guys cannibalizing off each other as it was. O.J. Howard probably not going to get enough volume to be super fantasy relevant. At the very least, not worth a 4th rounder, in my opinion, and I believe the opinions of everyone in the show in most fantasy circles. We could get Eric Ebron, who was an absolute stud last season. He had touchdowns he had 12 touchdowns overall. Couple double games, but I mean, he was really, really good. He did have a couple really bad dud performances. He was kind of touchdown dependent, but he's out there. Hunter Henry is a name that stands out to me very, very clearly here. Coming back from injury in a very potent offense, a guy who's going to be used in the red zone, something to definitely look at. We know that Phillip Rivers loves to look at his tight ends. And then we've got a couple names, David Njoku, Evan Ingram, Rob Gronkowski. Now, Gronk is the name that everybody's probably screaming about, but as of this recording, we don't expect Rob Gronkowski to be a Patriot next season, and he was used much more heavily as a blocking tight end this season. He burned a lot of people. We'll talk about that a lot more as we get to the tight end review in a couple weeks. That all being said, to me, as of this recording, Gronk is still a Patriot. He's still Rob Gronkowski, so I think that this comes down between Rob Gronkowski, Hunter Henry, and Eric Ebron. Now, Eric Ebron was great for fantasy, as I already said, but Eric Ebron also had the good fortune of basically being the last tight end standing there. We know Jack Doyle went down with injury. Those two are going to probably form more of a committee. People might forget about that. So Eric Ebron takes a slight step down for me for that reason. It becomes a conversation of Gronk and Hunter Henry, and it's, does Gronk continue to play football in 2019? Hunter Henry's back, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. You could go either way. For name recognition, I could go Gronk, and then I would have an amazing fantasy football team for like 2 years ago, having Melvin Gordon, Odell Beckham Jr., Aaron Rodgers, and Rob Gronkowski. But we could also look young at Hunter Henry. I'm going to go old school. I'm going to grab Gronk. I don't like it. But fourth round for Gronk, a guy who's been a first rounder in the past. He could bounce back. He could be used. And we've seen him do it in the past. Can't stay healthy. Hunter Henry's had health issues himself. And Hunter Henry, we speculate on his upside. We've seen his use. But there's also the possibility that they bring back Antonio Gates. Gates says he wants to play again. I don't, as of this recording, expect Gates to be there. But it's an ever-present possibility. So because there could be a committee in Los Angeles with the Chargers, there could be a committee in Indianapolis with the Colts, I'll go with Gronk. But come, again, draft season, we'll know a heck of a lot more than we know now, and we could be laughing that was even a conversation to be had. Kenny Golladay went next. Derrick Henry, Darius Geis, and Alshon Jeffrey round out the fourth. Top of the fifth, Julian Edelman, Allen Robinson, Corey Davis, and then Lamar Miller did go. And now we are finally free. I don't have to look at kicker or defense. At least we're not doing anything with that in this draft style. I'm going to be looking at them in the last rounds. I've got a lot of talent at my skill positions to make up. I still need a starting running back, a starting wide receiver, a flex player. I've got an amazing starting core, but depth will be a problem for this team. So I'm looking at running back, the most volatile position. There is depth at wide receiver. I'm looking to see if there's anything that can save me at running back. And honestly, right now, it is incredibly thin. Looking for your second running back in the fifth round. This is why I don't do this. But as of now, we have 2 quarterbacks taken in the early fifth, 20 running backs, 22 wide receivers, 4 tight ends, and then 4 players in the flex, so it could be a wide receiver or running back. That is the situation I would like to be in, that I had my flex players filled. I don't want to own a kicker, or not a kicker, a quarterback or a tight end yet, but that's what we have. So at running back, our options are Jerick McKinnon, Tyreek Hill, Tevin Coleman, Jordan Howard, Mark Ingram, James White. Now, we have the knowledge as of this that Kareem Hunt will be out there, but obviously he's going to fall in draft, so we can look at that much, much later as an option because he's still listed as a free agent. He'll probably be one of those sleeper picks that we'll get as a guy who is a throwaway pick. If he ends up being something in Cleveland, wins the starting job, we'll be happy we have him. If not, we won't be too upset. So for us, it looks like we're kind of deciding between Jerick McKinnon, which I've said time and time again, can't stay healthy, I don't believe in. Tyreek Cohen, who's a backup. We've got Tevin Coleman, who's a backup. They've got Jordan Howard there, who's the starter technically, but he's lower than Tyreek Cohen. And Mark Ingram, who will probably be on another team. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Beyond that, we've got James White, LaShawn McCoy, Kenyon Drake. You know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull a wild card here because Jerick McKinnon, I don't think is going to stay healthy. We talked about the timeshare between 2 of these guys. Tevin Coleman, we saw couldn't do anything with starting reps this past season. Mark Ingram, we don't know his future. And James White is the 3rd running back on that team. I'm going to grab Kenyon Drake. We're going to give Kenyon Drake the benefit of the doubt. We're in the 5th round, so we're starting to take shots. And if Kenyon Drake wins that starting job, Frank Gore could be long gone. Maybe he'll finally get the reps that we hoped he would get last year, which never happened. he could be a sneaky pick. He could be a second, third round value at the end of the season that we're getting in the 5th round. So I'll grab Kenyon Drake. I like that pick a lot. Only a handful of running backs went behind us. So James White did go with the next pick. Then it was Tyreek Cohen. Cooper Kupp went. Dang it, I was hoping to sneak him. Darrell Henderson. So we've got a rookie free agent that's already showing up in the 5th. Andrew Luck, Jerick McKinnon, Doug Baldwin. Top of the 6th. David Njoku, so more tight ends. Deshaun Watson, Mark Ingram, O.J. Howard, Jordan Howard, Jarvis Landry, and Matt Ryan all went. So as of now, we're in the 6th round. We have Aaron Rodgers as our quarterback, Melvin Gordon and Kenyon Drake as our running backs, Odell Beckham Jr. as our wide receiver, and Rob Gronkowski as our tight end. So this is our short turn, so we can be a little creative here. We've got LaShawn McCoy out there, who we could grab as our flex play, which I like a lot. At wide receiver, there's still a lot of depth, but running back is drying up really fast. Man, we might just do that, actually. You know what? I'm going to say, because at wide receiver, we've got DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Tyler Lockett, Sammy Watkins, Chris Godwin, Marvin Jones, Robbie Anderson, Mike Williams. A lot of those guys I put in pretty much the same tier. Calvin Ridley maybe above the rest. DJ Moore, definite upside. But both those guys... we need running back help. Running back's really, really hard to get during the season. You can always free agent add wide receivers unless there's a massive injury at running back, and then you can add one if you've got priority or whatever your system is. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and draft ourselves LaShawn McCoy. This is like an awesome team for like 2016, but or 17 maybe. Kenyon Drake, being really young. We've got a lot of old school names here. I'm gonna be flayed for this, for going with all these old school names, but hey, track record. And LaShawn McCoy, I'm not expecting big things out of, but running back, we are so depleted at the running back position already. We need something there. So now we'll look at wide receiver with our next pick. After us, Russell Wilson went. Hunter Henry fell to the 6th. Okay. So if we pulled the trigger on him on the 4th, that would have been really early. Drew Brees, Tevin Coleman. In the 7th, DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley both went. That's too bad. Jameis Winston and then Sammy Watkins. Was hoping one of those 3 were going to make it back to me. Did not happen. So now we're sitting here. We have Odell Beckham Jr. And what are our options? We've got Tyler Boyd in Cincinnati. I'm not expecting huge things as of now with the new regime there, especially AJ Green coming back. We'll see how that all shakes out as we learn more. Really between Tyler Lockett, Chris Godwin, and Marvin Jones. I like those 3 names as a, 7th round value. Now, Tyler Lockett, we saw, was a monster this past season, and when Doug Baldwin is taken out of games, which is likely to be the game plan for most teams, Tyler Lockett can be very good. Chris Godwin, a name that I have been a huge fan of Chris Godwin since he entered the NFL draft. I was kicking my Ravens for not drafting him. I think he's an awesome wide receiver. He's got an incredibly bright future. He's just been buried on a depth chart. And in Tampa, we might see it this year. We already talked about how with Bruce Arians being there, he loves to feature his wide receivers. Mike Evans, unquestioned number 1 there. Chris Godwin, he's that other outside guy. If Deshaun Watson's not a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. If Deshaun Jackson leaves, this is a no-brainer for me. I am 100% grabbing Chris Godwin here. I love the upside potential. Adam Humphries, I think, is a situational guy, as is Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson, the speedy outside guy. I think Chris Godwin is going to be that big outside weapon. But as of this recording, we don't know. We don't know Deshaun Jackson's future. Or we go with Marvin Jones, who I think is still technically going to be the number 1 in Detroit. I love Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay is a up-and-coming star, I feel, as well as I do with Godwin. I think you could really go whichever way you like here. So the muddled situation with Tampa has me looking away from Godwin. It's between Marvin Jones and Tyler Lockett because it's a 1-2 punch. It's just which one's going to be the number 1. And you know what? I think I'm going to go young here. I've been going old school with a lot of these names. I'm going to get a little bit younger. I'm going to grab the guy who was the number 11 wide receiver in fantasy this past season, I am going to draft Tyler Lockett to my fantasy team as my number 2 wide receiver with Odell Beckham Jr. Behind that, Tyler Boyd went next. Cam Newton, Jared Goff, Ben Roethlisberger, Marvin Jones did go, Rashad Penny, and then Carson Wentz. Top of the 8th, Chris Godwin did go, Mike Williams, Robbie Anderson. We have Will Fuller, Matt Breida, Elijah McGuire, and Geronimo Allison all went. And now we are in the 8th round. We could go either way. Running backs, they are scarce and few and far between. I think we maybe pull the trigger here in the 9th round on a guy we've been looking at because we need some running back help. Right now, we've got... Ooh, actually, we could do that. No, I'm good. We're going to go ahead and draft ourselves one Kareem Hunt. I was looking at Jay Ajayi, but he's a free agent. We don't know where he's going to be. 9th round, you're getting a first-round value. I mean, it's a long shot because we don't know what his status will be if he even makes it with the team. There could be just massive backlash from the community, and it could really be that he's not even in the NFL next season. But drafting in February... a guy who we know can be an elite number 1 running back in this league. 9th round, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's all about the numbers. Kareem Hunt. Royce Freeman went next. Golden Tate, Cortland Sutton, and then Kenneth Dixon was a guy I was also toying with. But you never know what the Ravens are going to do, and they like their committees, and they now have a running back or a quarterback who likes to run the ball just as much as any running back, and it is too diluted for me. Dante Pettis went next. Larry Fitzgerald, Sterling Shepard, Christian Kirk, and now we are in the 9th round. That was the 8th round. We're in the 9th round. So now we have a need at still running back. We've got 4 running backs. I'd like to get at least one more, and we need help at wide receiver desperately. We could get one of those names. Dion Lewis is out there, for instance. Rex Burkhead is a name that I like and I'm looking at. But we'll come back to that because I think we have 4 solid running backs with Melvin Gordon. We have Kareem Hunt now, obviously, Kenyon Drake, and LaShawn McCoy. We'll get fantasy value out of those 4 guys, but we only have 2 wide receivers, and we're getting close to the double-digit rounds. It's becoming a problem. So let's go wide receiver. Wide receiver, we have a pretty diluted pool of guys to pull from. We've got Curtis Samuel, Carolina, Kiki Kuti from Houston. We have Anthony Miller, Chicago, Dede Westbrook, Michael Gallup, Emmanuel Sanders. We have just absolute absence of big names and upside here. So we got to get a little desperate. I'm going to look at a couple of guys. There's one name at wide receiver I'm looking at, but I think I can get much later. So, and if he's there, we'll talk about him because we could go really in-depth as to why. But I'm going to go ahead and grab a guy who was good in flashes last season and could be the next big thing now that there's a big wide receiver in Dallas with Amari Cooper. I'm going to hope that we'll see Michael Gallup take a big step in his sophomore year. So, Michael Gallup, welcome to the team. Can't be much worse. We're taking long shots now at this point. Gus Edwards went. Curtis Samuel is gone. I mean, he flashed, but his upside kind of scares me. Jay Ajayi went. Rupert Foster's gone. Eric Ebron. Emmanuel Sanders was the other guy I was considering, but he looked pretty spent, and man, Denver needs a lot of work on the offensive side to be productive. They could basically only run the ball last season, so Emmanuel Sanders scares me a little bit. James Washington, wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Top of the 10th, double-digit rounds, home stretch, Dion Lewis, Austin Eckler, Jalen Samuels, Trayvon Williams, Kiki Kuti, Rex Burkhead did go, and then Deshaun Hamilton. So a lot of names that we're starting to deep dive a little bit. We got a couple of rookies. We got some stuff we don't know what to expect. Now it can go either way. So there's a lot of uncertainty out there at both the running back and the wide receiver position. So when in doubt, I look running back. I know we've got plenty of running backs, but I want to get the last couple guys that I can right now. And there's one name that's just staring me in the face. There's a couple high-level handcuffs, but there's one that really stands out based on what we saw incredibly recently, and we will probably know a lot more soon. But in case things continue to go the way they have, or if the guy ahead of him goes down, you have what could be a number one running back, a definite guy that could be in the argument for second, third round if the guy ahead of him went down. I'm going to draft C.J. Anderson on the assumption he's still a Ram next season and he could be in a nice committee, which would really, really, really deflate Todd Gurley. Other guys I was considering there were guys like Jamal Williams. That was really the main guy. Maybe Carlos Hyde with Leonard Fournette not being able to stay healthy. Nyheim Hines, but I expect the Colts to be a very possible landing spot for Le'Veon Bell, so that would be a wasted pick. We don't really know what's going to happen with C.J. Anderson, so it's a long shot either way. It's double digits. That's what it's for. We are looking for long shots in the dark, upside, and potential home run hits. So, yep, could do worse. Ronald Jones went next. That's a guy that is an interesting choice, but I don't know how incredibly useful he'll be or if he will be a lead back in Tampa next season. Latavius Murray, another handcuff I was considering, but I don't think he's got what it takes to be like an elite number one. Dalvin Cook I expect to do better next season. Anthony Miller did go. Nyheim Hines did go. End of the 10th. Top of the 11th, we have D.D. Westbrook, Zay Jones, Adam Humphries, Marquise Goodwin. Dang, I was hoping Goodwin make it back. And now we're sitting here at the 11th round. We need wide receivers desperately. We have 3 bench spots, kicker, defense that we need. So we have 5 picks left, so 3 more skill positions. I'm not doing backup kickers. Why do I keep saying kickers? I'm not doing backup quarterbacks or tight ends. We invested way too early at those positions as it was to waste more draft capital. We can get guys off the waiver wire, and there's plenty of names out there still. We're in the 11th round, and there's still guys like Evan Ingram, Delaney Walker, Jared Cook, Austin Hooper, Trey Burton, Greg Olsen. This is Jimmy Graham, Kyle Rudolph. This is why I wait at tight end. Oh, man, this is a busted draft. I can tell you right now, not even going through it, this is a thing I will never do live. But we need wide receivers. We need them badly. So John Brown, I expect to be gone. Antonio Callaway could be an interesting choice with the Browns. Jamison Crowder with the Skins could break out. How about a guy we've seen flashes of, and maybe we will see a marked improvement in Miami this season. I'm going to draft... it feels bad to say it. I'm going to draft Kenny Stills. It's the 11th round. Again, you could do a lot worse at this point. That's not really a home run hit as much as it's kind of a floor play with upside. The next guy I'm going to pick is going to be a definite home run type hit. It's going to be a boom bust type guy. We have Donta Foreman who went next, Duke Johnson, Josh Adams went, John Brown did go, Chris Thompson, Marshawn Lynch went. Interesting. He's not with a team. Quincy Enunwa was the end of the 11th, top of the 12th. Phillip Rivers. Would have loved to have gotten Phillip Rivers in the 12th round. Jared Cook, Isaiah Crowell, Josh Jacobs. We have Baker Mayfield. Would have taken him. Antonio Callaway, Evan Ingram. And now I'm sitting here staring at 2 guys. Yeah, definitely 2 that stand out above. Well, 3 that stand out above the rest. Do I go with John Ross? He's the number 3 guy, but I think he's shown that he was nothing more than an unbelievably fast runner at the draft, where he even hurt himself at the draft while running. He can't stay healthy. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who as of now is the number 3 in Green Bay. So that potentially the number 4, depending on what happens with Randall Cobb. Or do I go a little bit wild here, which is what I'm leaning towards, and do I grab myself one Demaryius Thomas with a full offseason to get the Houston offense under his belt? He is under contract next season, so it just seems like the really kind of obvious choice here. So I'm going to go ahead and draft myself one Demaryius Thomas. As I start a little bit, as I'm trying to find where the click, there it is. All right, and I really like that pick for a wide receiver. That is some unbelievable depth to get in the 12th round, Demaryius Thomas. Trey Burton went next. Would have loved to have gotten him in the 12th. Mitch Trubisky, Greg Olsen, the Bears defense. First defense off the board. We have 1 bench spot left. We have our choice of kicker and defense, so I'm going to say we go ahead and we do that now, because top of the 13th, we have Ito Smith, Spencer Ware, Alex Collins, Jack Doyle. So we'll save the final pick of the draft for our last running back or wide receiver, depending on what we like out there. Let's get our pick at kicker and defense. On defense, look, there's we have Steven Gostkowski, Greg Zuerlein, Justin Tucker all out there for kickers. Or we can get the Ravens defense or the Jags defense right now. One defense is off the board. We might be able to get our hands on a kicker still. I don't know how the kicker run's going to start. Might not start till the 15th. Let's go ahead and get the Ravens defense. They were unbelievable last season. I expect them to be, honestly, potentially better next season. So, yeah, Ravens defense is on our team. We picked right. The defensive run started. There's no kickers that have gone as of yet. I love it. All right, so we have Chris Herndon that went, Lamar Jackson, Doug Martin, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Vance Donald, and Jamal Williams at the end of the 13th. Top of the 14th, Jags defense, Vikings defense, Rams defense, Dolphins defense, Chargers defense, Texans defense, Saints defense, and now we can take whichever kicker we want. Steven Gostkowski, I think he's done, honestly. It comes between Greg Zuerlein and Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker is the homer pick, but it's undeniable that Greg Zuerlein was better in fantasy the last 2 seasons. So I'm going to go, and just so you guys can't yell at me for being a homer for taking Justin Tucker and the Ravens defense, I will draft Greg Zuerlein. Even though he had that bad miss in the playoffs, I think he'll be fine. So we'll do that just, again, so you guys can't yell at me for being a homer. I like padding the stats like that. The Browns, the Falcons, the Broncos, and Jamison Crowder at the end of the 14th. And final round, Justin Tucker went with the next pick, which is the one that I would probably take in a real draft. Steven Gostkowski, Matt Bryant, Harrison Butker, and now we can pick whatever we want, whether it be a running back or a wide receiver. We have 5 running backs and 5 wide receivers. We can go either way. When in doubt, I always look running back, and there's a guy that's staring me in the face who says he wants to play for another couple years. He's out there. He could still theoretically be the starter where he is based on how the other player there turns out coming into next season, though we're seeing videos of him running. I'm going to grab Adrian Peterson as my long shot, super late 15th round pick. So, my team, I don't love it, and I expected not to love my team going into this draft because of the draft philosophy we were doing, but if everybody stays healthy, this could be a serious contester. My draft grade is C-, which means I probably actually did pretty good. We have, as my team, just based on how it's drafted, I'm not going to reorganize this at all. We have Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, Melvin Gordon, and it says Kenyon Drake. It'll probably end up being Kareem Hunt as my starting running backs. At wide receiver, we have Odell Beckham Jr. and Tyler Lockett. At tight end, we have Rob Gronkowski. At the flex, that could be Kenyon Drake, LaShawn McCoy, or it could be, I guess it could be Adrian Peterson. We'll wait and see. I'm going to put a running back there most likely. Flex is one of those guys. We have Greg Zuerlein as my kicker. Ravens defense. On the bench, all the names that I already mentioned. Kareem Hunt, Michael Gallup, CJ Anderson, Kenny Stills, Demaryius Thomas, and Adrian Peterson. There's a lot of veteran names on there, but when you do the strategy, I feel like you have to go with those safer floors, those known commodities. You have to get the better foundation because you are risking quality depth with this draft philosophy. As we saw, I could have gotten Phillip Rivers, Trey Burton. I could have gotten so many. Hunter Henry guy I could have gotten a couple rounds later, but there's quality names at quarterback and tight end I could have gotten in double digits, and I could have then had some elite guys. I could have had an Aaron Jones in the second round. I could have had an AJ Green or in the third, or maybe even Tyreek Hill based on the way this draft fell. I could have had some unbelievable quality depth across the board at all my starting skill positions, which are the more volatile ones, but that's what we were experimenting with. C- is the grade I got. I would give this team probably a C-, quite honestly, because I think there's upside, but it's pretty old, and just knowing what I had to invest I keep saying kicker, at quarterback and at tight end, it's scary. And Rob Gronkowski is also an unknown potential time bomb, but there's a lot of really good tight ends out there that I did not draft. So I hope this was fun for you guys. This was more of an exercise in what could be as opposed to what should be or what I would even do, which is why you guys are kind of catching me a little bit in the raw here. I'm thinking, I'm not doing a philosophy I'm comfortable with, and this is why we mock draft. We experiment, we try new things, and this could really work out, or this could really come back to bite me, and we'll never know because it's a mock. But, end of the day, my draft team, I got a lot of really good names on here. I got some really good values. I got an elite quarterback that I never get. I got a possibly still elite tight end. The depth is questionable, but because we know what could be next year, there's a lot of upside on this team. So this is a team that really could work. So I think we've proved that this is a viable strategy, but it's a scary one, and kind of cheating the system, getting a guy like Kareem Hunt in dang near double-digit rounds. That will never happen in your actual drafts if he turns out to be on the road to be the starter in Cleveland. So these are all things to think about. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I want to know what your take back, what you would have liked to have seen done differently, what you would have done differently, who you would have picked at what times. I mean, our rankings aren't complete, so this is all kind of speculation. It's recency bias. It's us breaking down what happened last year with speculation, what's coming next year, knowing the coaching changes, the changes around the player, the changes for that player themselves, where they're going to be. It's a lot of speculation, and we don't know a lot of those answers yet because free agency hasn't started. The NFL draft hasn't happened. We don't know what's going to happen. A lot of these teams for running backs need offensive lines. There's just a lot of things that are unknown. So that's why known commodities are safer if you're drafting now. I would be okay with this team, honestly. I would have loved to have gone a different way, gotten elite starters across the board as opposed to some upside guys, but I like the team a lot. So let me know your thoughts. Rate, review the show. We will be back on Friday. Hopefully I'll have the whole gang together, and we will get to the previously promised top definitive running back breakdown from 2018 Part 1. So we're going to be getting through the running backs 1 through 12, our top guys, and we're going to run through them. We might only get through the top handful because once we get to the second tier, we kind of fire through them a little bit quicker. We're not going to make the show 2 hours. We're going to see what we can get through naturally, but I hope you guys do enjoy. Make sure you rate, review the show. Follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, or you can follow me individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF. Get your questions in. We're pretty good about answering those this time of year because we don't have many coming in this time of year. And I hope you guys have a great week. We will see you on Friday. Bye, guys.